The rain in Greenwich, Connecticut didn't feel like an omen at 4 a.m. It just felt like a nuisance. It was that cold, rhythmic New England drizzle that turns the world gray before the sun even has a chance to try. I stood in the foyer of our colonial-style home, a house that cost more than my father made in his entire lifetime, and checked my watch for the third time in 60 seconds. Our flight to Naples was scheduled for 8:15 a.m., and in the world of high-stakes litigation, being late was the first step toward losing. The car service was idling at the end of the driveway, its headlights cutting through the mist like two searching eyes. My wife Elena, the woman I had shared a bed with for 15 years, was upstairs finishing her makeup. She was always perfect, never a hair out of place, never a voice raised in anger. She was the envy of every partner at my law firm. They saw a devoted wife and a brilliant charity organizer. I saw the woman who had made my life complete. "David, did you grab the leather travel folder from the study?" Her voice drifted down the stairs, melodic and calm. "Right here, honey," I called back. I reached into my briefcase, feeling for the familiar weight of our documents. We were headed to the Amalfi Coast to celebrate our 15th anniversary. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, a reward for a decade of grueling 80-hour work weeks. My fingers brushed against the passports. I pulled them out to ensure the boarding passes were tucked inside. But as I adjusted my grip, one of the navy blue booklets slipped from my hand. It hit the marble floor with a soft thud, falling open. I bent down to retrieve it, expecting to see Elena's familiar passport photo. Instead, my heart skipped a beat. The woman in the photo looked like Elena, but the hair was jet black, the glasses were heavy and dark, and the name printed in bold official type was Miranda Vance. It wasn't a U.S. passport. It was a document from a country we had never visited together. The air in the foyer suddenly felt thin. I stared at that name, Miranda Vance, as if it were a foreign language I couldn't translate. Before we go deeper into this story, take a second and hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. I heard the click of her heels on the hardwood upstairs. Click, click, click. The sound usually brought me a sense of peace. It meant we were on time. Now, and it sounded like a countdown. I stared at the Miranda in the photo. The eyes were unmistakable. That same piercing green that had captivated me at a gallery opening in Manhattan back in 2011. But the person in this document was a ghost, a stranger with a history I didn't know. Elena appeared at the top of the stairs, draped in a cream-colored cashmere coat, looking every bit the Connecticut socialite. She caught sight of me standing frozen, the passport open in my hand. For a split second, a fragment of a moment most people would miss, her face didn't register surprise. It registered a cold, tactical assessment. The warmth I had lived with for 15 years vanished, replaced by the calculating gaze of a professional. "David," she said, her voice dropping the melodic lilt. It was flatter now, sharper. "Shoot, you weren't supposed to dig that deep into the folder." "Who is Miranda Vance, Elena?" I asked. My own voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "And why is her face yours?" She walked down the stairs slowly, her hand gliding over the banister. She didn't look like a wife caught in a lie. She looked like a CEO entering a boardroom. "It's a long story, David. One that involves a life I left behind long before I met you. Put it back. We have a flight to catch. We can talk about it over the Atlantic." I should have stayed. I should have called the police right there while the rain blurred the windows. But 15 years of history is a powerful drug. It makes you want to believe the lie even when the truth is staring you in the face. We climbed into the back of the black SUV. The driver pulled away from our manicured lawn. Erin and I sat there, the Miranda passport burning a hole in my pocket. I opened my phone and searched her name. Not Elena Miller. I searched Miranda Vance. The first few results were generic, but then I hit a digitized archive from a small-town newspaper in Illinois. The headline was buried, "Local bookkeeper missing, $600,000 embezzled from senior living fund." The date was 14 months before I met Elena in Manhattan. The article described a woman named Miranda who had systematically drained the accounts of 32 retirees. One of them was a man named Arthur Phelan, a Korean War veteran who lost his entire life savings. He died 6 months later, heartbroken and broke. I looked at the woman sitting next to me, texting on her iPhone, and realized I wasn't just married to a liar, I was married to a predator. Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one. JFK Airport was a sea of frantic energy. Elena stepped out with the grace of a movie star. She looked like she belonged here, in this world of luxury and international transit. I followed her, my legs feeling like lead. As we stood in the premium check-in line, she leaned in and adjusted my collar. "Smile, David," she whispered. "The cameras are everywhere. Don't give them a reason to look twice." It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. She was managing the scene. I looked at the TSA agents and the Port Authority police. Any one of them could be my lifeline, yet I felt completely isolated. I was a senior partner at a top-tier law firm, a man who navigated the most complex legal labyrinths in New York, and I was being led to a boarding gate by a woman whose real name I didn't even know. While we waited in the lounge, Elena excused herself. The moment she disappeared, I opened her carry-on bag. Tucked into a false bottom was a slim, black leather ledger. It wasn't just Illinois. There were entries dating back to the late 90s. Seattle, Denver, Austin, Miami. Under each city was a man's name. Robert, Stephen, Marcus, and next to each name was a series of dates and dollar amounts. Each project lasted between 3 and 5 years. She would marry them, entrench herself in their finances, and then slowly, the liquidation would begin. But I was different. I was the 15-year mark. My name sat at the bottom of the last page. David Miller, total asset value, $4.2 million. The realization hit me like a physical blow. And she hadn't just been skimming, she had been waiting for the big payout. Our 15th anniversary trip wasn't a celebration. It was the exit strategy. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in my story and share your thoughts in the comments. I sat back, the ledger hidden under my newspaper. I started connecting the dots. 2 months ago, she had encouraged me to move our primary savings into an offshore trust for tax purposes. She had handled the signatures. Last month, she had insisted we take out a massive travel insurance policy that covered accidental death or disappearance. She wasn't going to Italy to drink wine. She was going there to make David Miller vanish. Or perhaps she was going there so Elena Miller could drown in a tragic accident, leaving her free to return to the world as Miranda Vance. I looked up and saw her walking back toward me. She had reapplied her lipstick, a shade of deep blood red. "You're awfully quiet, David. Are you worried about the merger?" "I'm worried about ghosts, Elena," I said quietly. She didn't flinch. "Ghosts are only dangerous if you try to bring them back to life. If you let them stay buried, they can't hurt you." It was a blatant threat. She was telling me that if I boarded that plane and kept my mouth shut, maybe I would survive the trip. But I knew better. I stood up. "I need to make a quick call to the office," I said. "Just a last-minute detail." "Don't be long, darling," she said, her eyes never leaving mine. "We wouldn't want to miss our flight." I walked toward the glass windows overlooking the tarmac and dialed my partner, Marcus. Marcus, it's David. I need you to listen very carefully. Pull the records for Miranda Vance, Illinois, 2008, and freeze every joint account I have with Elena. Do it now." "David, what's going on?" "I'm in the middle of a 15-year scam, Marcus. If I don't call you back in 20 minutes, send everything to the FBI field office in New Haven. I found a ledger. It's all in here." Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one. I walked back to my seat, every muscle in my body coiled. Elena didn't even look up from her phone as I sat down, but I could feel her awareness of me. She was waiting for me to break. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Fine," I replied, forced to smile. "Just a last-minute signature. You know how Marcus is." She chuckled. "You've always been the anchor." David, that's why I picked you." She didn't say loved you. She said picked you. I just looked out at the Boeing 777 being fueled on the tarmac. That plane was supposed to be my coffin. "Group A, please begin boarding at gate B22, the overhead speaker crackled. As we walked down the jet bridge, The air became metallic and cramped. I felt the walls closing in. This was the point of no return. Once that cabin door closed, I was in her world. I kept my hand in my pocket, gripping the black ledger I'd swiped from her bag. It was the only shield I had. We found our seats in the first-class cabin. Elena took a glass of champagne and toasted to 15 more years. I watched the bubbles rise, thinking about the senior citizens in Illinois. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in my story and share your thoughts in the comments. The plane leveled off over the Atlantic. The cabin lights dimmed. "How did you do it?" I whispered. "The wedding, my parents. You sat by my mother's bed when she was dying of cancer. Was that part of the project too?" She didn't even open her eyes. "Your mother was a lovely woman, David, but she was wealthy and she trusted me. Did you ever wonder why her estate was smaller than expected? I didn't steal it. She gave it to me because I was the perfect daughter-in-law." I felt a cold rage settle in my marrow. This wasn't just about my money anymore. This was about the sanctity of my family. She had been a parasite in the most private moments of my grief. "You're acting paranoid, David," she said suddenly, turning to face me. Her voice was loud enough for the passenger across the aisle to hear. "Ever since your father passed, you haven't been yourself. Are you having another episode?" She was setting the stage. If I tried to scream for help, she would tell the flight attendants I was mentally unstable. A man grieving a loss and imagining conspiracies. It was a classic move. "I'm not having an episode, Miranda," I said, leaning in close so only she could hear. "I'm having a realization. I know about the house in Seattle. I know about the accidental fall in Denver. And I know about the ledger." For the first time, her hand shook, only slightly but enough to spill a drop of champagne onto her silk scarf. "I'm not going to Italy with you," I said. She hissed, "You don't have a choice. If you cause a scene, I'll tell the Sky Marshal you're erratic." "Who do you think they'll believe?" "They'll believe the forensic audit," I countered. "I called Marcus. The FBI is looking for Miranda Vance, and they're looking for the woman who accidentally used her real passport this morning at 4 a.m. I saw the predator in her eyes. "You think you're so smart, David, but I've been doing this since before you passed the bar. You're just a name on a page, and pages can be torn out." The rest of the flight was a silent war. We sat side by side in the dark, two ghosts traveling at 500 miles per hour. She didn't try to run. There was nowhere to go. But we weren't going to Italy. I had texted Marcus one more time before the Wi-Fi cut out. I told him to contact the airline. I told him there was a fugitive on board. When the wheels touched down, it was the rain-slicked tarmac of London Heathrow. The pilot announced a technical divert. I saw the blue lights of the police vehicles reflecting in the cabin windows before the engines even cut out. Elena looked at me, her face a mask of pure, distilled hatred. "You ruined it," she whispered. "We could have had everything." "I already had everything," I replied, "and then I found out none of it was real. If you were in my shoes, facing a person who had stolen 15 years of your life, would you be able to keep your cool on that plane, or would you have snapped?" Share your thoughts in the comments. The lead flight attendant walked straight to our row. Behind him were three men in dark suits. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, we need you to step off the aircraft first. There's a discrepancy with your travel documents." As we walked down the jet bridge, a detective stepped forward. "Miranda Vance, I'm Detective Inspector Higgins. We are acting on an international red notice issued by the FBI. You are being detained for identity theft and wire fraud." Elena didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just smoothed her coat and allowed them to lead her away. I watched her go, and for the first time in 15 years, I breathed. While I was held in London for questioning, a team of FBI agents back in Connecticut raided our home. They didn't find much in the primary rooms. Elena was too smart for that. But in the basement, behind a false wall in the wine cellar, they found her real workspace. They found boxes of burner phones, each one labeled with a different man's name. They found a high-end printer used for forging documents. Most chilling of all, they found a surveillance log she had kept on me for 15 years. So she knew my schedule to the minute. She knew which partners at the firm I trusted and which ones I didn't. She had been listening to our conversations through hidden microphones for years. I wasn't just her husband, I was her hostage. They separated us immediately. I was taken to a sterile room in the bowels of Heathrow. A man from the U.S. consulate sat across from me. "We've been tracking Miranda for a long time," he said. "Every time we get close, she vanishes. You're the only one who lasted 15 years. I put the black ledger on the table. "She didn't just steal money," I said. "She stole time." I spent the next 6 hours recounting every detail. Our entire social circle in Greenwich was a curated theater production, and I was the only person in the audience who didn't know it was a play. Before they transported her, I asked for 1 minute alone with her. She looked smaller now, without the designer clothes. "Why, Elena?" I asked. "Was any of it real to you?" She looked up, her eyes jagged. "Real is a relative term, David. I gave you the best 15 years of your life. Does it matter that the foundation was built on someone else's name? You should be thanking me." I walked out. There was no soul to save. There was only the scam. Returning to the States was like walking into a house gutted by fire. I stepped down from my firm. I sold the house in Greenwich. I took the remaining money and set up a trust for the victims in Illinois. The trial was long. I sat in the front row, watching as the woman I loved was dismantled. I met the other men, the Brotherhood of the Mark. There was Robert from Seattle, now a shell of a man living in a studio apartment. Well, he told me she used the exact same pet names for him. He told me she used to make him the same secret family recipe lasagna she made for me. It was all scripted. There was the brother of Stephen from Denver, who still believed his brother's accidental fall was anything but. We sat together, a line of men who had all been loved by the same ghost. We realized she didn't just steal our money. She stole our ability to trust another human being. Miranda was sentenced to 25 years. On the day she was led away, she didn't look at me. She was already looking at the guard, probably calculating his net worth. Today I live in a small apartment in Brooklyn. I don't have much, but what I have is real. I wake up in a room that belongs to me. I spend my days helping other victims of financial fraud. It's not the life I planned, Sanam, but it's an honest one. If you were in my shoes, having lost your career, your home, and your history to a person you trusted completely, would you find it in your heart to forgive, or would you spend the rest of your life seeking revenge? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining me on this journey. This has been a story of how one travel mistake brought an empire of deceit crashing down. If you want more stories of family secrets and revenge, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell us your overall thoughts on this case below. I read every comment. Until next time, stay vigilant.